Oh yeah, you guys will watch this over and over again. I won't do too much dancing.
I'm not a dancer.
He's my backup dancer. Hi guys, welcome. Hi. What is tonight, Monday? Monday. Happy Thanksgiving week. 1 month till Christmas. Welcome, welcome guys. Oh my gosh. Oh, Miriam! We love you, we love you. Well, this is definitely not a workout. I'm getting a lot more followers on this one than I do on my workouts. I actually tricked you all. We are doing a workout. Lunges, go. Oh, you guys, this makes me just like almost tear up how many of you are getting on here so quickly and have so much interest in this topic. Thank you for being here. Hi, guys. Oh, there's my mom. Hi, Mom. I'm sure my mom's already crying. Thanks for joining us, guys. So probably most of you guys saw my post and my stories that we're going to be talking about addiction and recovery. And my brother David has spent a ton of time thinking about this, and we've talked a lot about it over the last 24 hours about kind of what we want to share with you. And I've taken a lot of your questions. I've sent him a lot of your questions, and he's prepared to answer them. And I would love for you guys to ask questions along the way, but because we're kind of sitting back here, I won't be able to see them. So I thought that we'd kind of talk for a while. Oh, Beth Weinstra. She remembers when you were born. So David's 10 years younger than me. So yeah, we all remember. David was like our little baby doll. We took care of him. That's awesome. So yeah, so ask questions along the way, but we won't be able to answer them. We're gonna go through everything, talk through everything, answer questions that you guys have been sending all day. We got hundreds and hundreds and hundreds of questions. And what we decided to do is kind of group them so that we're answering more, summaries of questions and going through different kind of subjects. And then ask questions, and then we'll come up at the end and kind of log on. Oh, that's so sweet. So many nice congratulations to you. Okay, so we'll do about like one more minute. Oh, so many people I love. What's so crazy about this subject is, I had mentioned that I had said 75% of us answered that we're dealing with addiction in our families. And people all responded like, no, it's 100%. Like 100% of us have this going on with close family, friends, loved ones. It's definitely a prevalent thing. So, which is very apparent because this has been a topic that seems to be very close to many of your hearts. So I think we'll get started, and as people come on, just hop on, stay as long as you want. If you have to go put your kids to bed or whatever, I will keep this up for 24 hours, and then I'm hoping to put it onto my YouTube channel once the 24 hours is up, and you guys can watch it and share it, because I think there'll be a lot of great knowledge to share and things that you could kind of listen to over and over. So ask questions. I'm not able to see them. My eyesight's good, but not that good. So I think we'll get started. And what I was hoping, this is super casual, so we're gonna just kind of talk and chat and have a conversation. I was hoping that David could kind of tell us his story and kind of walk us through his journey and his path so that we could kind of understand where he's coming from, and he could share some insights with us.
Definitely. First off, super grateful to be able to talk and share my story. As I share my story, I'll hit on a few points that they're key points. They're key things I want to share because I think they played a real big part in it. Number one, grew up in a fantastic family. Great parents, great sisters, good area. We were a happy, healthy, good family. Played sports. I truly feel like I was just kind of like the all-American child, right? Just played sports, good grades, all that stuff. Grew up in the LDS church, still in the church, but I was fully active, and I was the last person that anyone would ever think would, end up being addicted to drugs and alcohol. Not to scare people, but it can happen to anyone. So be alert. Don't think, oh, that would never happen to my child. Just, be alert. So age 15, after, never doing drugs, alcohol, never having anything, wanting to do it, never actually talking the opposite, finally curiosity was a big thing. I just decided, hey, people are doing it. Everyone says it's bad, but I'm going to try it. Tried it one time, and it was pretty much, the rest is history in terms of just, there was something in my genetics that definitely got me wanting to do it more and more and more. At first it was fun. There's no, bad parts to it. And it was a double life. I was active in the church, active in my callings and everything. Why? Because I believed it. I really believed in my faith, yet there was this other part, and both were strong, and I didn't want to give either up. Went on a mission, and that was 2 years of just freedom for me. Finally, the addiction was removed for 2 years, got back, and then very quickly the addiction came back. After my mission, it was mainly Adderall, so prescription addiction became a big part of it. Used it to help me study, and then quickly, the addiction took full force. Got married, and my wife and I, for the next 7 years, we're, as she would say, we're on a journey, and it was hell at times, and the biggest thing is she never gave up on me. I luckily never gave up, and there's pieces of rehab in there, and AA, and different types of recovery, but finally, after 14 years from 15 to now, finally am 1 year sober.
That is amazing. I've been crying all day about it. He sent me a picture of his, what is it called, a coin?
Yeah, chip,
of course. And it was just it's been a long, he's lived by me throughout a lot of this. Like he said initially, he is the last person my parents ever would have thought. We thought he was a straight arrow, good kid. He was truly the all-American boy. Like that boy that you look at who has it all, that was him. I never, ever, ever, he hit it so well. Tell us a little bit about that double life, when you're in high school and you're one way with your family and maybe at church and you're one way. How does that, what does that do?
Yeah, well, in terms of them never thinking it would happen to me, I honestly never thought it would happen. Even the day that I said, okay, I'm going to try something one time.
And what did you try?
It truly was to try it one time. I had I'm going to start partying. It was I just want to try this and see why people do it, because people say it's bad. I tried marijuana first. Okay. But the double life, it's I think it's kind of insanity, really. It's living two lives, but in my case, really wanting both of those lives, not faking either one. And as soon as the addiction came into the picture, that was something that really you start to feel like you have to have that in order to be able to live that life that you do believe, the life of faith or whatever the other part of it is, the family stuff. I remember specifically, I always had to make sure I had whatever substance or whatever so that I could, be there and be present and, be happy and be part of. And that's the insanity of addiction. People that are struggling with addiction, they think, I need to take this so that I can be there for my loved ones. I need to take this so that I can, and it's a lie. It's the opposite, but that's where your mind's at the time.
And so talk a little bit about the shame. I don't know if that's with, my mom and dad were very straight arrows. I think they just thought that we were all perfect pretty much. So whether that's high school or I don't know when, maybe even with marriage, how does shame play into the picture and what did that do?
Mm-hmm. Yeah, back in high school, I don't really even remember specifically, but in general throughout my whole story, and I can tell you it applies to all addicts. When you're really in your addiction, you start to hate yourself. You start to just think that you're the worst person, because especially if you do have this other desire to live clean and, you know, be a person of faith and stuff, you just feel like I'm an imposter, I'm a hypocrite, and so that shame, it's a cycle. You end up, you know, continuing in your addiction because you feel so horrible about yourself and you hate yourself and you don't want to feel that. And then you hate yourself and you don't want to, or you hate yourself and feel horrible because you're actively in an addiction. And so it's a cycle that goes. The shame, you know, we want the best for our loved ones. My parents wanted the best for me. They were great parents. The big thing was, it was hard to communicate anything other than the good stuff, right? The good stuff, great relationship, it was all there. Sports, grades, friends, good stuff. But it was like, don't ever talk about struggles or bad stuff. And
right. Because what were you afraid of? If you were to talk to mom and dad about, hey, I tried marijuana, I was drinking the other night.
Yeah.
What?
At that time, it was like, I mean, this is, you know, 17-year-old kid.
Yeah.
I felt like the world would end. I felt like I didn't know if, I mean, the emotional freak out,
yeah.
That I was scared. I also was literally nervous for them. Like, it would break their heart. It would break their world.
Yeah.
Like, you know, it was an absolute, and my dad would be the first to talk about this, so I'll say it. One time he did catch me with something, not drugs or alcohol, but something, stealing, and that was another thing, but, and he lost it on me. I've never seen him get that angry. I've never heard those words come out of his mouth. And it was just the scariest experience of my life at that point. And in my head, it was just like, the only thing I thought was, okay, you're never finding out anything ever again.
Right.
I'm gonna do my best to make sure I hide everything. And then it definitely, you know.
And so does hiding things make it, like, did the hiding make it bigger?
Yeah, I have friends that, you know, weren't members of the church and stuff, and their parents knew they experimented, and they talked to them about it. I know I have a daughter, and I'm thinking, man, how could I ever, like, be okay with her doing stuff like that? How could I ever talk to her about, oh, you smoked weed?
Right.
But in reality, I believe that we need to get there. We need to get to the point where we put the emotions aside, and it's our child and the connection rather than our principles and beliefs, really. It's like that connection, don't condone it, but hey, I'd love to talk to you about, you know, if you ever do slip, if you ever do mess up, talk to me about it. I'm not gonna get mad. Easier said than done, obviously.
Right.
But the most important thing is I just wanna be able to talk to you, and a big question to ask your child or son or daughter is, I'm curious for why. You know, why did you, so you drank at that party. I'm just curious why.
Why, right.
Was it, you know, and well, I'm shy, and you know, it loosens me up. Because there's always a reason, right? It's not just for no reason. And the why, even with current, like, hardcore addiction, there's pain, right? The reason is pain. They're using their addiction as a solution to their pain.
Right.
And so it's, hey, talking about that pain other than the addiction, because if you get to the pain and what's causing that is where the healing starts.
We had talked about how, as parents now, our goal is, like, to take the emotion out of it. And I say that I have friends who, their high schoolers come home and they're like, oh, so this happened and this happened. And the parents are like, oh, okay, all right. And then they, like, go to their room like, oh my gosh, and, like, freak out. But, like, that Dave and I said, you even, like, fake it, right? You're like, I am here, like, what's going on? Who's doing this? Who's vaping? Who's this? Who's that? Like, let's talk about it. Who's having sex? Like, let's talk. And so it's just, like, this open line, so that when it does come, it's not the shame, which, like, carried through until a year ago, right?
Yeah,
like,
big time.
It doesn't leave.
And it just gets worse and worse.
And it gets worse.
You know? Something I really want to share with everyone, the people that are in their addictions, sometimes they show it, sometimes they don't. They're suffering. Like, they are fully suffering because they hate themselves for what they do, because typically they're lying, they're cheating, they're stealing. There's a lot of ugly things that come along with addiction. And whether they show it or not, they hate who they're becoming, who they've become. And not only that, but this is really important, their brain is hijacked. Their brain truly, as a science, has rewired itself, and above the basic necessities of life of, protect your loved ones and, get food and stuff like that, the drug is put number one. And it says, okay, I need that drug, and as I was saying before, then I can take care of my child. Then I can, reach out to this person. Then I can do the day-to-day. And so they truly, it's hijacked, and it's a form of insanity that even though the thing is killing them, they truly believe that they need it to be there for the people around them. And so if you can, the hardest thing, but it's the most important, separate the person, the addict, from the addiction. They're separate, right? They're not one, because your loved one is a great person no matter who they are. The addiction is an ugly beast, and together it's ugly. But if you can say, hey, son, your addiction is, or talk to your son or daughter, separating the two, because you still love them, you still show compassion for them. Hey, your addiction is killing you, and we're nervous for you, we care for you, we love you.
Yeah.
So for instance, if you're worried that someone's struggling with addiction, or let's say they have an addiction, and you haven't talked to them about it yet. Number one, let them know that you know. It's a relief. They might freak out, they might push back, they might be defensive, but it's a relief.
Well, they probably will.
Yeah.
Right?
Yeah. Depending, you never really know. Each situation is different, but most of the time I'd say yes. Okay. Inside of them, there's part of them that's, and here's the thing, you don't say, hey, I know you have an addiction, and come at, it's all about how you come at them. Do whatever you need to do to come at them with love. I care about you. I do know, some of your struggles. I don't know the details, but I know you're struggling, with an addiction, and I still love you. It's so simple, it's so basic, but that right there is the number one thing that you want them to know. My parents, my friend, my sister, my brother knows I have an addiction. They know the ugly side of me, and they still love me. And then tell them there's hope, because I can tell you that there is hope. There is a solution out there. There are ways to beat addictions. I guarantee that. Let them know, okay, I know you're struggling. I still love you. There is a solution, and when you want help, I'm here for you. I'm not gonna force you, but I am here for you when you are ready. And then the ball's kind of in their court, if that makes sense.
Totally. Tell us a little bit about what happened a year ago today. Give maybe a quick snippet of what happened a year ago last night. Or not even if you don't want to in detail, but just it's not like you were traveling this journey of getting back.
Right.
And it was so tell us a little bit about that.
Yeah, so the road to recovery for me was my 1 year wedding anniversary. I was in rehab. That was about 8.5 years ago. And that's when I finally came to learn, I have an addiction. I'm a drug addict and alcoholic. I didn't get that. I didn't know why I did the drugs and alcohol, because I believed they were bad. I didn't know why. In rehab, I learned what addiction is, that I had the genetics of addiction and the active addiction, but then I also learned about there's a solution. And I really do believe in AA, and really it doesn't have to be AA, it's the 12 steps. 12-step, meetings, 12-step groups, support groups. As soon as I went, I said, these people all get me, and there is a way. Now fast forward, I basically was in and out of AA and struggled with addiction, like I said, for the next 8 years. But I knew there was hope. I knew there was a solution. And I couldn't deny the addiction. So it was very easy to see, okay, I have an addiction. I couldn't have any denial. And it was just a battle of keep trying, not giving up. And then anytime I'd start to get a little better, I found myself a thought coming, do what I'm capable of doing. Okay, maybe I'm not capable of not, taking a whole bunch of Adderall or drugs today, but I can go to a meeting, even though I did take drugs. Okay, so I'm gonna do what I can do. And then, okay, I can't maybe stop today, but I could take less, or I could say a prayer, or I could go work out, or I could, anything that's good for you. And so I would do that little stuff, but then I kept on trying to do it by myself. And that's another most important thing. No one can beat addiction by themselves. It's impossible, because it's your own brain hijacked running the show. The addiction's running the show. By yourself, it's impossible. And I kept trying to do it by myself. Yeah, I'd go to meetings, I'd go to support groups, but really it was kind of by myself. And then I all of a sudden I was losing everything. My wife, daughter, I wasn't living with them, and reality was setting in. And that's one thing I'd say too. Help your loved ones see reality. When you're in an addiction, you don't see reality. Let's say you have a 17-year-old, kid that's really struggling with drugs and alcohol, but they just don't, hey, I don't have a problem, I'm just having fun. Try to calmly talk to them, just so you know. Let's talk about what would happen if a police officer found out. You would go to juvenile detention. Do you know what that is? Do you know how long you'd be in there? Do you know what that would look like for the rest of your life on your, talk them through the reality, because when you're doing that stuff, you don't realize the reality. Where was I before that?
You were on the road back, you'd gone in and out of rehab. We're talking about
doing what you can do.
Yeah, doing what you can do.
And then, but just
coming to like that night in the office, morning.
Really just fell off the wagon again and was driving up to another city under the influence.
Can I ask you really quick? I have a question. So all of these years, I was there for most of it. And let's say like Thanksgiving Day, Christmas Day, you come over for Sunday dinner. Like, what should I have done? Because it worked a year ago today. Mm-hmm. And we'll talk about that. But like, so many people asked, like, how do I help along the way? Like, what could I did support him and loved him as much as I could. But I was also like angry at him and mad at him. And sometimes I just kind of half ignore him when he was here, like, because I could tell he was high. And like, what can we do to support, like, through the process? Because once you decide to get sober, that's different. So I want to talk real quick about during, like, you're still in your addiction. How do I, as a loved one, as a friend, as a sister, as a mom, what do I do?
Yeah. So I can say I'm sober today because I had you guys, right? Because my wife, so it was a nice little mixture. My wife was tough love and didn't put up with anything, which was so necessary because she helped me see reality. She would not let things go, unchecked when it's like, this is not okay. And that was huge because you have to see reality. Then I had, my sister who was just, she'd still have me be with her kids and like babysit and like, not by myself, with me, but be around and be super involved and invite us over all the time. And it was as if I didn't have an addiction. And in my opinion, that's one of the huge things is just love them like normal, if not more. And so like, I'm sober today, right? So something worked.
Right.
Those people that don't get sober, they don't have people still bringing them into their homes, still loving them. The thing that really started picking up the healing was the conversation. I wanted to get better. I wanted help. I just didn't know how to do it. And so finally, the simple as, hey, I know you're struggling. What can I do to help? And you'd be surprised quite often if they're in a point where they want help, they kind of know what they need to do to an extent. They can't do it, but they kind of know. Like, if if they don't know about recovery, maybe they have no idea. Hey, I really want to help you. There is a solution. Well, I don't think there is. It's how do I stop? Let's talk about going to treatment or something. Offer a solution. But really, hey, I know you're struggling. What can I do to help? And then if they push you away, when you're ready, I'm here. It is it. And sometimes it's a slow thing because they're not going to get better until they're ready.
Right.
And so forcing the issue quite often, if not always, doesn't work. Being there, ready, because there's these windows of willingness, I say, like, so someone who's struggling with addiction, one night they're like, I want to quit. I want to get better. They're just gung ho. And then the next morning they're back in it, and maybe that window doesn't come back for a week, maybe it doesn't come back for a year, a month. But when it comes back, if there's that support group around them and they know, okay, I can call, whoever, and okay, I'm ready to get help, that's huge. So there's no quick fix. It's
Right.
more of letting them know you love them and letting them know, hey, I know you're still struggling. Like, that's okay. And, if they respond poorly, it's on them.
Yeah.
Let them know you love them. Let them know that they're struggling, and then let them know that you're there for them and ready to help them in whatever way you can.
Yeah. Okay. So like anger, sad, like all of that doesn't.
The person hates themselves enough. The person just wants to disappear enough. They don't need other people putting that on. But you can kind of team up with them and talk to their addiction and about their addiction, and hey, believe in the person, show belief, and because there is hope, there is a solution. Believe in that person that they're going to get better. And I had so much of that. What I had around me, people that love me, parents, wife, sisters, friends. I had people that believed in me. I remember my dad specifically, just like, there was no doubt. He knew I would get better. It's just a matter of when. I don't know if he really knew that, but he showed that.
He did.
And
it was unbelievable.
And then, support, belief, love. It's just kind of the typical stuff, but the other anger, shame, all that stuff, hide it from them, because it doesn't contribute to healing.
Yeah. Okay, so a year ago, what ended up?
Yeah.
How did you? A lot of people were like, "How did he finally flip? Like, how did it finally work after 14 years?"
Yeah. So my wife talked to my dad and said, you already know, but hey, he's really struggling. Like, something needs to happen. So she spearheaded it. My dad then got I think they kind of strategically decided, okay, who do we want to be in this little, I know you can kind of call it an intervention, this little sit down with David. And they came up with my brother-in-law, Jeremy, my sister Tiffany, and my dad. And it was interesting, those three, because those three are very good at controlling their emotions. They're very good at, Doug, my dad used to not be, but now he's really good. And so those three, Jeremy, my brother-in-law, reached out to me and said, hey, we'd love to talk to you tonight. And I was already under the influence, and that's always pretty important if possible. Try to catch, if you're gonna have this conversation, try to have it right when the person wakes up so that they're at least somewhat sober. And so, hey, can we talk tonight, Jeremy said. And I was under the influence, so I said, how about tomorrow morning? The next morning I went into his office, my dad was there, Jeremy was there, my sister Tiffany was on the phone, and they simply just said, hey, we know you're struggling. Do you want to talk to us and kind of, do you want to share? And then I just opened up, and then the big thing was, what can we do to help? That's it. The ball's in your court. What can we do to help? Tell us. And at that point, I was ready. I was done with drug. Like, I just really wanted to be done. And so we put together a plan. And the plan for me was go to a 12-step group meeting first thing in the morning. I said, if I go in the evening, I've had the whole day to slip up again. And then I'm, high or something goes wrong. But if I wake up and I started going to a 6:30 a.m. AA meeting, and first 90 days of my sobriety, I probably went 80 out of the 90 days to the same meeting, 6:30 to 7:30, and that, with the fact that this time it wasn't just me by myself driving to a meeting, leaving, and who knows what happens. I had these three, Jeremy, my dad, and my sister, on a group text. And the whole thing was, hey, let us know what meeting you're going to, tell us when you're done. And it was all uplifting. It wasn't like, hey, you have to do this. It was like a plan that we put together. And I was excited. Hey, I got done with my meeting. Hey, day number 2 sober. And each thing, there truly was a different power, because it wasn't just me. It was people around me. And I can't speak enough about Miriam, my wife, along the whole thing. She could have so easily lost hope, so easily just been so fed up. But in terms of never giving up and just sticking with it, and what she'll say is she did that because I never gave up. And that combination, but the support group is just, there's nothing to really replace that.
Yeah, that was amazing. And I remember it did feel so good. Like, it did feel like you were really in it. But as the supporters, you're still super nervous, right? And I think your group, your little text string, and I will say these are less emotional people. We didn't put my mom in there. We didn't put me in there because I kind of wanted to be the, not in that group. So if he needed me, but we definitely picked those people for a reason. And I think taking the emotion out of it, people that could be practical, hold him accountable. Like you said, there was a lot of strategy to finally getting you in that place. And anyways, it was incredible to watch.
And one thing I have to add is I personally believe, I do believe that God plays a huge role. And really what I believe is God works through people, right? I mean, if my loved ones didn't support me and get around me, it's hard for God to help me, right? And so, prayer is real and he will inspire, and that gut feeling is real. So when you're dealing with an addict, that gut feeling will speak pretty loud to you. Hey, they're manipulating you right now. Hey, they're trying to trick you. That's always true. The gut feeling is never wrong, especially dealing with addiction. If you have a feeling, and I believe that's God kind of directing.
Because I think so often you would try to talk me out of it. I remember us getting in fights and you're like, what are you talking about? And then you're kind of like, oh no, like, shoot, should I not be accusing him of this? Like, especially when it's like, my mom would be upset, the family, like, it tore apart the day, like, why are you doing this? And then he'd kind of fight back and be super defensive, and then you start going, oh no. And then you start second guessing yourself. So I love what he's saying, because I always say I could see it in his eyes. Like, I feel like no one knew but me a lot of the time. Like, I just always could tell, because like his light was gone. Like, David is such a force, and when he, had that, I could always like feel it in my gut and tell. And then I'd kind of like have these interactions with you, and I would be scared, and I think we're often scared, right? Like, we don't know what to do. We don't know how to handle it. It's awkward. It's hard, and you're angry and you're sad. And so I think because I had a little distance, because it was my brother, like, I could always do it in love. If I'm your mom, like, I'm really, like, you have hurt me to the core, and it's probably harder sometimes, like, oddly, to do it in love. But because I had my own family, my own distance, like, I felt like when I could do it from love, like, you knew there was never a minute that you doubted, right?
Right.
And so, like, he knew he could always come to me no matter what. Going often to people who are angry is harder, I think.
Big time. And once again, one of the key, it's like, well, how do you come with that love? How do you, especially if you are one of the close ones, right? If you are the husband or wife, if you are, the parent of a teenager or whatever, and it really, really, really is the person who's struggling with addiction, they aren't in control of what they're doing. The addiction is in control. The addiction is the bad guy. They are a victim. In a way, a victim to the addiction, right? There always is accountability and all that stuff, but especially in the beginning, separating the addict from the addiction and saying, I'm so sorry you're going through this. But you're feeling, wait, no, I'm you should be sorry that I'm dealing with you and going through this, but you got to talk because it's not them that's doing that stuff,
What if someone's in their addiction? I know a lot of people that reach out to me, they have loved ones, super close loved ones, that are in their addiction and they're in denial. What's your suggestion? Your husband, your wife, your sister, your brother, your child, for sure, is in denial. How would you go about that?
Kind of goes back to the helping them see or feel the reality, because they're in denial, so they're delusional about what's going on, about where they're at, about, you know, the whole thing. So what you can share is not, you know, you're hurting all of us. Like, you know, once again, it's not also really important. It's not what you say, it's how you say it. So come at them as calm and collected as you can, and kind of lay facts out. Let's just say, you know, me back then, hey David, we love you and we're very concerned about your health. Every time I'm with you, it seems like you're sped up, and I'm scared, but I want what's best for you. And so kind of paint the picture. Hey David, recently you've been very angry, and I know it's not you. And, you know, so kind of talk about the symptoms. Hey, you know how you freaked out the other day? I know that's not you. Is there something, you know? And so kind of talk about the stuff that is happening, and it's not them, it's the addiction. And so I know that's not you. Is there something going on? And just try to help them see, but that's tough.
That's tough.
It's really
I
tough.
love the idea of laying out the facts. Like, this is what I'm observing, this is what is. And even just, you probably don't have to go too far into that if you're talking to a kid or your wife, or they know exactly what you're talking about. So you probably don't even need to say so much. And how you're talking about it is taking out all of the emotion. Like, these are the facts. This is what I'm noticing. What can I do to help? Or if it's like it's super defensive. It's like, what are you talking about? And then it just becomes, right? It unravels. And if you're an addict, like, you're not gonna deal with that.
Yeah.
But someone, even we were saying, like, faking it, coming at you, these are the facts. This is what I'm seeing. Very unemotional. You can't argue. You can't start getting defensive and have it become a fight with that.
And these are the facts, not like, these are the facts that show that you're a bad person. Or these are the facts that...
These are the facts that concern me.
Yeah, like, I love you, and these things don't match up with how I know you, you know, because it's such a fine line, because addiction's ugly, you know, it's very ugly.
It's very ugly.
And that's where I'd say, you know, pray before that conversation, because it's tough. But if you can separate the addict from the addiction, when someone's in denial, a lot of it is going to be kind of like finding those opportunities, those windows where they're less in denial, or something really big happens, and you can try to lovingly kind of take advantage of that and say, hey, you know, you just, whatever it is, I know that's not you, you know, and then you can share, you know, we feel that you do have, you know, a struggle with alcohol, and here's why we think this. We know that you know, are, anyways, just talking about what you're seeing, and So AA for those that are struggling with addiction, and then Al-Anon. So Al-Anon is just as amazing as AA. So Al-Anon, it's a support group. It's all over the world. Wherever you are, I guarantee in whatever city you live in, there are Al-Anon meetings. Go to alanon.com.
And Al-Anon is for
the
loved ones. Yeah.
And so they teach you how to deal with living with an addict, how to, and you walk into the meeting, and whether there's 5 people there or 30 people there, each person there is in your situation, and it is amazing. You walk in, you just feel support, you feel the hope, and I can only share my experience. People there, man, some of them, I've been living with my, you know, loved one who's an addict for 5 years, and here's, you know, and they're experts on the topic. And then LDS 12-step meetings. So there's the ARP, Addiction Recovery Program, and then there's also meetings for the loved ones. So it's not just people that struggle with addiction, they're separate. And so you can go to support group meetings in the Addiction Recovery Program for the LDS Church as well.
Is there like a top lesson, a top takeaway that through all of this, he said, kind of like, I don't want to say this, but I'm kind of glad like I went through this. So explain what that means. Like, how can you say that?
Every time I'm about to say this, I think of my wife and those closest to me, because it's almost like, how can you say that when you made all of them suffer for so long? But I am grateful.
Or that's what I should say. Grateful.
For being, for having an addiction. And why is that? Number one, the biggest lesson I learned is just there's zero room for judgment. Like, judging is the worst thing ever, because I do believe I'm a good person. And so if I can do what I've done in my life, then I will never judge anyone, because you don't know why people are doing things. You don't know what's going on. So yeah, just taking the judgment out of life. And I swear, you see, whoever it is, I mean, even to the point of, you can get pretty crazy with, like, really what you say is evil people. I'm like, you don't know. You don't know why they're doing what they're doing. And to say that, you know, and so, yeah, so judgment is, and I'm so grateful for that, because it's pretty ignorant to judge people, number one. Number two, and this gets spiritual, but like, the power to change is real, and I do believe in the atonement, and I believe in God, that with God's power, and like I said, through people around you, change is possible. And so anytime anyone's struggling, and that's probably number three, kind of right there with number two, is now I have something that I can help people with, right? If I didn't go through it, I wouldn't be able to help people that go through it. And I just see that as one of the reasons that I have experienced addiction, so that I can connect with people that are struggling and say, I know how you feel to one extent or another, and they will be able to tell that I do, because we can talk on that level and stuff. You know?
Absolutely. Okay, so last question, we're about there, and then we'll go to a couple of these questions, but your 16-year-old, 17, 14, 12, like 11, right? Who knows? 18-year-old, like you catch them, or you think, like, I just want to reinforce this one more time. You think that or you catch them with something, or you're pretty sure that they're out drinking, and whatever they're doing, what should this mom or dad do that's watching? Like, what do you suggest? What would work? What would have worked well for you? Or what can they start now, knowing that may come?
Yeah. You know, I've never been on the parent side, but I have been on the other side. And sometimes I think when you haven't been in the thick of it, you can think with a mind that it might be a little ignorant, but sometimes it's powerful to be a little ignorant. So it's like, number one, develop the relationship. Instead of maybe pull away or get a little, you know, just less talkative or less connection, do more connection. Maybe right when you start feeling that, hey, let's do a fishing trip. Hey, let's do a whatever your kid likes to do. Hey, let's go to an NBA basketball game. Let's do something, and just start developing the relationship. As you're doing that, at some point, and I think you kind of follow your gut and you follow, but ideally you spend some time with them, and then once again, hey, I might be wrong, but I feel that you might be, you know, experimenting with something. I want you to know I still love you. I obviously don't want you doing that stuff, but, and this is where some of you might, and even me, I don't know how, this kind of scares me to think about it, but I do believe there's something to it. I just want you to know that if you slipped, if you've done this, if you drank, it's okay. It's okay. If you have already messed up, it's okay. Let's just talk about it. You're not saying, hey, in the future, it's okay to drink. You're saying, hey, if you, I kind of think I found some, you know, marijuana. I kind of think you smoke. If you smoke marijuana, it's okay. We can talk about it.
Yeah.
You know, because it is okay.
It is okay.
Like, is it okay that they do it in the future? I don't know. Maybe it is, maybe it isn't. But is it okay that they slip? Of course, because everyone slips. So I think your kid would be blown away if they hear that. Like, if my dad sat me down, hey, Dave, here are the signs. I think I would deny it. And then if he said, hey, Dave, deny it or whatever, but I just want you to know, if you have, it's okay.
Yeah.
I'm here for you. It would have just, in the moment, I probably still would have denied it, but it would have planted something that, like, holy moly, I can actually maybe tell my dad.
Right.
You know?
And you can believe it's okay.
Mm-hmm.
Like, because when you're going through this and developing addiction, like, you don't think it's okay,
Yeah.
and you don't think there's a way out.
Mm-hmm.
That comes with maturity and time,
And I would be clear about the whole thing of like, you know, if you've messed up, it's okay. I'm not saying it's okay just to continue that.
right.
And I don't know. Everyone needs to work on that. I need to work on how to navigate that, but
No,
there is something there.
There absolutely is. Okay, last thing, because this was a huge question. We'll end on this, and then I'll check any questions we have there. But a lot of people said, I have my person, and I don't know how to help them without enabling them. And there's this big thing of like, am I enabling? I ask that constantly with him. And I watch my parents, and I'm like, you're enabling. And they're like, we're just helping. So from your point of view, where is it enabling and where is it helping? And what do you suggest?
Yeah. That's it's a tough one. But what I'd say, if the person, a lot of it depends on where the person's at. Let's say, so they're active in their addiction. They're not in denial, so they know they have an addiction. They want to get better. Talk with them about, hey, what do you think would help you get better? Basically, so come up with a set of things that you both agree that would help. Yeah, it'd probably help if I exercise. It would probably help if I went to an AA meeting. Yeah, it'd probably help if I didn't have cash on me or whatever it is.
Right.
And then almost all other things that they come to you besides that list and say, hey, I need money, or hey, whatever. Most of that other stuff, I would say it's okay to just say, hey, I love you, but I can't help you with that. Like, that's not something I'm willing to do. I could take you to a meeting. I
love that. So you have this like plan.
Yeah. That
in
you
a
come
good
up
moment with them.
Yeah.
And to help them with all that as much as possible. And then all the other stuff that comes up.
Yeah. And that gut feeling,
yeah,
it's kind of like a cheat response, but it's true. Go with that gut feeling. If there's any ounce of you that feels like, I think I'm enabling him, you are. I can say that confidently. If you feel like you might be enabling, you are. Because addicts, when the brain's hijacked, they will manipulate, they will do whatever it takes to get that breath. So if you want to try to feel like what it's like to be an addict, say, okay, I'm not going to eat today. Or I'm not, really, it's like, I'm not going to breathe. Okay, and then a couple hours goes by, half a day goes by, how badly do you want food? Okay, maybe you could go one day without food. What about the next day? At some point, you are freaking out needing food. Every cell in your body is like, I have to have food, or else I can't do anything. That's the same exact thing with addiction. You feel like, I have to have that, and then I can do everything else. So you will do whatever it takes, and you will hurt whoever it takes, because once you get it, you think you can then kind of fix and be there for everybody, if that,
Absolutely. So many people said, how can they choose the alcohol, the drugs over like my kid? But
they're choosing survival number one, right? I need to survive. If I don't survive, I can't be with my kid. Yeah. It's like, I remember, like, specifically, I need drugs so that I can be a good dad. Like, I remember thinking that. I need my Adderall or whatever so that I can be a good dad. And then it's like, wait a minute. And here's the thing. The drugs or alcohol or substances are serving a solution. Like, they are acting as a temporary solution. It's just the wrong solution. But yeah, so it's the rewiring of the brain, and they're not picking it over you. They're picking it because they still want to have the people they love and all that, even though it doesn't, seem like that.
Right. That was amazing. Okay, we're gonna go and just, if we have a couple of questions, let's see. You can't help anyone who's not ready to help themselves. Yeah, if they're not ready.
But you can let them know that once they're ready, you're there,
For sure. My parents always say nothing you can do could ever be so bad that you can't come to us about it.
Yeah, that's huge. And it's so funny, my daughter's 4.5, but I tell her, like, hey, do you know that no matter what, I will love you so much. Like, even when you're mean to me,
Right.
even when you like yell at me, even like it doesn't change anything, you know. But it's easy
Yeah,
when she's 4.5.
nothing could ever be so bad like that we can't solve together. I love that. Shame fuels addiction for sure. Oh, Light the Fight podcast is a great resource. We, if you have teens, it is. And David and I actually talked about that. And one thing that we talked about is like how the parents deal with it. And she's amazing. You guys should definitely look at her. And we talked about how not to freak out. We talked about that a lot during this. But I think she says, which is like pretty profound, but like parents have a huge impact. Like parents can make or break this. And so it's something to think about, but I think we definitely talked about that a little bit. Curiosity and love. Oh, curiosity, that's a great word to think about. Remember, it's their life. Oh my gosh, totally. It's their life and not a reflection on you. It's about them.
And the big picture, it's like everyone's on their journey and have faith that it will work out. Like, you know, when I was in the middle of it versus now, it's like I'm grateful for that. It could have gone differently, but now I see like my cousins who struggle with addiction, and I just gotta have faith because sometimes they're not ready to be helped and they're on their journey.
Right, we do have family members who are still struggling, and I don't see David like stepping in and being like, this is what you need to do and this is what I did and it'll all be solved. He's on a journey, and kids have to go through their own journeys and people have to go through their own journeys, and
Call him once in a while,
yeah,
stay connected.
super supportive,
You know,
all in love. David's always professed out. One thing that we talked about that I love that I heard on I think a Jody Moore podcast that I'm going to really try to do, and David and I both said this, is when something happens with your kid, you want to take a minute and before you go and react, you need to want them to get better for them, not need them to get better for you. So you want them to get better. I want David to get better for David. I don't need David to get better for me to sleep okay, for me to go out with my day without crying, for me to be okay in my own skin. That, and if you can, and it can take, it's faking it, it's waiting, it's whatever it is. But she said, when you can do that and it becomes about your child and it's about you wanting it for them because out of love and care and concern, not out of this fear, need, scared, like all of that, like they will sense that. And she just said, when you can come at that, like, I want this for you. And it's not this fear, need, craziness. I mean, I just think that's profound. Oh yeah. Right? And that could be a wife, that could be a husband, that could really be anything. Unconditional love. This is really good question. How do you stay connected with kids? It seems like, them being a priority would make a difference, but we kind of talked about that a little bit. How do you stay connected with your kids?
Just in general?
Just when you're going through like hard times like that.
Oh, me?
Yeah.
As an addict,
Yeah.
how do you stay connected with your kids?
Yeah, and through it all.
So one underlying thing that relates to that, and I think everything else is that whole thing of just doing what you're capable of doing. And so, because it's so easy to just be like, man, I can't do anything. Like, I just give up. No, it's like, okay, I can do this. I can take my daughter to a movie. Yeah, I'm just going to be in a movie, but I can take her to that. And then so do that, you know, and I can do this, so I'm going to do it. All this I can. And then all of a sudden you kind of start seeing that list grow, and it's like, oh, wow, I can do this now too. And
I love that. It's like those little tiny steps.
Mm-hmm.
That's awesome.
The mini habits.
The mini habits. I love the mini habits. Every person's journey is different. And remember that the cravings and triggers to use are extremely strong. My son wants to get sober. He's gone into treatment 5 times and keeps returning to use. What do you say to a mom that's in that position and their kid's 5th time in rehab? I mean, we've been there.
Yeah. Never give up. And I know that's just like a long-term answer, but that's never give up. And then I don't know the support group that he's receiving when he leaves treatment, because treatment is amazing, But really what happens after treatment and that support group around them is maybe even more crucial to prolong what happened in treatment. So whether that's a support group like 12-step, or whether that's loved ones that really get around this, not just, hey, we're here for you. When they're out of treatment, it is like, hey, let's put a plan together. Text us when you leave, and be uplifting with it. It's not a forced thing. It's like, hey, we're a team. Let's do this.
Team, yeah.
And but yeah, just never give up is really the main thing.
Yeah. Faith, hope. I look at his wife, who Miriam is just amazing. Like, I don't know how she did it. David stayed humble through it all.
No, kind of. I'd go back to
he'd always go back to humility. Yeah, you'd go back to humility. I mean, you always would kind of come around, but I mean, we've been through a lot. You guys, I know you're all going through this, and I really appreciate you doing this. You've touched a lot of people. For many, many years, it was not, almost the whole time it was not good, right? Like almost the whole time. And so it's day by day and watching him grow stronger, and it's really cool to see. And he truly is like a different person, and it definitely couldn't have been done without God's help, without Heavenly Father's help. So much support. My mom's amazing and has loved him, but my dad knows everything. He knows everything. He told him everything. And I think when you have someone that's like, I love you, even though like I know everything, I really think he's one of the main reasons that you're
and I want to know, because I love you.
He wanted to know.
And that, I don't know, we got to have him talk sometime about what changed, because it wasn't like that, when I was younger. And then all of a sudden
he didn't want you to die.
Yeah.
Like, it wasn't just like this little high school addiction or doing drugs in high school. It was scary.
And I think once I became, older, an adult or whatever, he saw that he can't control, I say that to my 4.5-year-old. In reality, you can do whatever you want, because in reality, kids are going to do whatever they want. I mean, to some extent, and almost to see that when they're younger and show that respect, and because I think all of a sudden I got older and he saw, oh man, I can't control him, so I might as well just be open and be there for him, and rather than trying to control what his choices are and stuff.
For sure. So thank you for joining. My dad was saying, I can see this being a 4-part series. So maybe we will. Definitely struck a chord and very close to a lot of your hearts. I think a lot of us, we have uncles and aunts and tons of both sides of the grandparents, with addictions. So it's just heavily in our family, and I think these discussions are good, and I think being open. Someone was like, if you have cancer, someone brings a casserole. And if you have an addiction to drugs and alcohol, you're sure not getting a casserole. And so I think opening up, and David is so, watch for him, you guys. He's going to be on the circuit. He loves sharing a story. He's just powerful. So thank you for sharing. I love you.
Thank you.
So glad. After hearing so many stories, it's a reminder that this is real stuff and tough stuff, and not everybody gets to sit next to their brother at the end of it. So thanks for being here, you guys. He's actually not on Instagram. That was another question a lot of people asked, which good for him, right? He's like, maybe I should get on. And I'm like, I don't know. Do you want to start that? But he's definitely a force for good, and everything he's been through has definitely been for a reason, because he's going to help a lot of people out there. So
I am starting a podcast.
He's starting a podcast. You guys, can I tell him the name?
Yeah.
Bridge the Gap. It's really awesome. He's a thinker. He's a deep thinker, and he's going places, you guys. It's pretty cool. So anyways, thanks for being here. You guys are amazing. Yeah. Okay, sorry. We have so many different comments, but we're about, I think, at an hour. So I think we're done. Thank you, guys. Thanks, Dave. And we'll talk to you soon. End now.